Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Manzoor Alam Sahab, Honorable Maulana Sayyidul Rahman Sahab, Professor Fahd Mohsin Ibrahim Sahab, Professor Akhtarul Wase Sahab, Professor Hamid Naseem Rafi Abadi Sahab, Professor Umar Hassan Sahab, who could not come here this morning, Professor Afzal Wani Sahab, Professor Ishtiaq Dani Sahab, and I can see a galaxy of teachers from the Aligarh Muslim University led by a person whom I considered an authority on Islam when I was in Aligarh Muslim University, Professor Saud Alam Qasmi Sahab. Ladies and gentlemen, research scholars and participants of this seminar. As you just heard, I am presently serving as the director of an institute which aspires to become a university in next 4 years. There is a library in that university which is known as Al Faruqi Library. When I went new there, I asked the students, who is this Al Faruqi and why is this library known as such? Believe you me, nobody could tell me. And then I went around and started collecting information about Al Faruqi. Why I mention to you is that we Muslims tend to forget our illustrious ancestors very fast. To Al Faruqi belongs the credit of giving to us how Islam should be understood. The goodness of Islam as he brought out to us, besides what Rasulullah gave to us and what comes through the Quran. And therefore we owe in a fair measure our gratitude to Professor Ismail Al Faruqi for telling us through his 13 books which he authored in a span of 65 years of entire life that he had, plus numerous papers that he authored. I had the fortune of reading his book Al Tawheed, and I was enamored to see what originality, with what simplicity and lucidity that he could convey to you the thoughts on the Tawheed. I'm not going to talk much on Professor Raji Al Faruqi because I know all of you sitting here know something about him, and those of you who are going to read papers on him, you will be continuing for the next 1.5 days. But I just want to touch briefly 4 issues which I was quite impressed with of Dr. Faruqi. The urba about which it has been mentioned. Suffices to say that as an Arab, he took pride on Arabianism and he was proud that he was born as an Arab. Though later on, as was brought out by Mohsin Ibrahim Sahab, he confessed that earlier I was a Palestinian, then an Arab and then a Muslim, with the order reversed to say that I am a Muslim first, then a Palestinian and then an Arab. See the change which knowledge brought into him. Many people say that he was an Arab chauvinist. And you just heard that when he went to Pakistan, even Dr. Rahman could not change him and his thoughts. And he remained just as much an Arab as he was before going to Pakistan. But what he definitely propounded is a sense of Muslim identity, a sense of Muslim brotherhood. Because he believed in the system of Ummah. And as you know, Ummah does not bother about caste, sect, creed or sub-religion. Ummah is one. You sitting here is part of that great Ummah. And fortunately, Islam bestowed upon us this concept of Ummah. And what Dr. Faruqi said, that even if you are not a Muslim, you should be an Ummah, you can be a Jewish Ummah, where the Rabbi's dictum will prevail upon you if you wanted to follow the Jewish laws. Dr. Faruqi did not hate Judaism, but he definitely had a distaste for Zionism. And that is why he found that today's Israel state has leaned and weaned away from Judaism into what we know as Zionism. And that is why he said that I do not like Israel as a state. But otherwise, he had no animosity towards Judaism per se. Gentlemen, he believed, Dr. Faruqi believed, that our ummah should be ummah wasat. The mention of this word ummah wasat also comes in Surah Baqarah in ayat 143. The ummah wasat concept that he tried to bring out was nothing but making you the central figure of the entire mankind. Wasat, as you know, is the middle point, the median. And if ummah is the median of humanity, our ummah is the median of humanity, it ipso facto implies that you are the kingmaker, that you are the hinge-pin of the entire Ashraful Makhluqat. And that is what he wished. But he lamented that God will not change. God will not change you unless you decide to change yourself. And he reminded us at many places the famous verse 11 of Surah Ra'd, where he said, where God says that I will not change the condition of the people unless they think of changing their own condition. And that inspires me to talk to you as Indians, as part of the Ummah, and I want through you also to convey our concerns to the global Ummah as to where we are struggling now. Dr. Faruqi made us to think. He made us to ponder in what state we are now and where we are hurtling through and what will be our future state. Gentlemen, we are on a cusp of change. The change is for there to all see what the changes are coming. In the last 4 years, there has been plenty of change here itself. And now the time has come that instead of being a quiet, sullen voices that we keep talking in the four walls of our houses, let us as Ummah project our point of view to the other. Unless you learn to project your point of view, how will others know? If you keep quiet, if you keep listening, and you keep accepting, then others will never get corrected. You don't have to fight. You don't have to argue. You don't have to indulge in any violence, because Islam does not believe in violence. Islam eschews violence per se. And as many as 114 times in Holy Quran, it starts Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. God, the Creator, Himself loves peace. He is mercy. He is merciful. And if God is merciful, how can His ummah not be merciful? And all of you who believe in Allah, you will agree that as a believer, you also ought to have the same compassion which God has. And therefore, you should, what do you do now? Go out and tell stories of compassion of Islam. Tell stories to those people who question your compassion and being ruthless, how good Islam is. Just to illustrate 2 examples. Recall the tale of that woman who used to throw garbage at the Prophet. And when that woman fell sick, the Prophet went to her house to inquire about her health. And this woman profusely apologized for whatever she did, and she embraced Islam. This is how Islam was raised. Instead of throwing garbage back at her, the Prophet showed concern for her. Look at Hind, the lady who took out the liver of Hazrat Hamza alayhi salam. The Prophet went and sympathized with her. What happened? Hind too accepted Islam. This is how Islam was spread. Not by retaliation. It was through compassion. And that is what we need to do at this stage. You have to be a lover of truth. Because truth always prevails. Next is the concept of war in Islam. As a soldier, I have tried to read what is the concept of war in Islam. Islam never advocated war, as you know. War is prohibited in Islam except for self-defense. There is nothing called guerrilla war. There is nothing called bush war. There is nothing called terrorism. There is just no philosophy of killing the innocents in war. War is only permitted by the state against oppression when you are on the defensive. And that also No individual has got the right to proclaim war. It is the state, the government of the day, which alone can proclaim a war. Now what happened? You recall the days of 1970 when the Soviets went into Afghanistan. They pumped in millions of dollars to indoctrinate young Afghanis. They printed books which showed AK-47. They showed bombs. They showed ammunition in books of the classes. And what happened? The students ultimately picked up those ideas and they started fighting. Till date, the problem of Afghanistan is not over. What was done, the damage was done in the name of Fidayeen against the Soviets is continuing today in the name of Taliban. That same mentality has seeped into our people. We have to knock out that mentality if you really want that we should come out and be praised. See the social aspect of Islam. Remember Bilal, Habshi, given the privilege of being the first Muazzin in Islam, Prophet called upon him, so what if you are black? Go and give the azan. This is the socialism of Islam. Look at the sexual rivalry that Islam propagated. For his own wife, Bibi Khadija, Prophet allowed her to trade from Saudi Arabia to Yemen. Do we do it with our women? Do we do it? But the thing is that all those talk against Muslims, that we discriminate against our women, that we are not socially equitable, is something which is creating a monster which is not actually existing. So what has happened after the fall of the communism, a demon has been created all over the world which is now being referred to as Muslim. I would like you as true representative of Islam to go out and knock out that demon, that image of a Muslim which people are trying to build. And through your love, empathy, care and concern for humanity, make a place in the heart of those who oppose you, of those who criticize you, of those who condemn you. Please start loving them. Love begets love. You will get love. And that is what Professor Farooqi has said. It is already quite late in the day. The poison has seeped very deep and intense. But it's not late ever. You can change. We can change. And let us go out and tell the goodness of Islam, which was propagated by people like Professor Farooqi. Then you will be true progeny of Professor Farooqi. You will be the true progeny of the Holy Prophet if you do that. I hope I have conveyed that message to you, and I hope once you leave these four walls, you will go and mention this to those who do not trust you, to those who do not believe in you. I am grateful to the Institute of Objective Studies, particularly to Dr. Manzoor Alam, for giving me this opportunity, and this is the third time that he has given me the opportunity to come in his institute and speak to the audience like you. You have been a wonderful audience. I know that you are more educated on Diniyat than me, but at the same time, I am a learner. I continue learning from people like Professor Saud Alam Qasmi and pray that I am able to tell those who oppose my mazhab and my qawm what goodness does it contain. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.